I want to talk about 4 different things the Packers need to fix in the final 8 games of the season. I think overall this is a pretty solid team, 6-3, not bad. Could be better, could be way worse. I think all in all, the Packers have played pretty good football for the most part. But there are 4 things they really need to improve on, and I want to touch on those in this video. Starting off, number 1, the Packers' red zone offense has been one of the worst in the NFL. Currently, 30th in the NFL at 47.06%. Luckily, the Packers have the 9th red zone attempts per game, and so they've been getting to the red zone at a top 10 rate in the NFL, but they have not been able to turn those red zone drives into touchdowns very often, almost dead last in the NFL. And this is something that has not been very good under Matt LaFleur for a few years. Last year, the Packers were 17th, better than currently. 2022, 23rd. 2021, 18th. It wasn't until since 2020 where the Packers were in the top 10. They were number 1 in 2020 and number 2 in 2019 with Aaron Rodgers. There were a couple of years there, even with Rodgers, where the Packers offense had not found success in the red zone. And I was trying to figure out, what's the biggest problem down there in the red zone? And as I was looking at some of these numbers, the biggest thing that stuck out to me is if we look at Josh Jacobs and his rush yards overall this season in the NFL, he is the 4th most rush yards in the NFL. But then if you look at his yards in the red zone and where he ranks among other players in the NFL, he's 39th in red zone yards. So clearly something is off there if you have the 4th most rush yards in the NFL and then only 39th in red zone yards. And I'm not really sure it's a Josh Jacobs problem because he's been, I think, a pretty solid, very solid running back so far this season. In the red zone, he has 20 attempts for 28 yards. And if you rank that among other running backs in the red zone, he's 45th in yards per carry in the red zone at 1.6. And so I think that's a big thing, a big part to do with the Packers offensive line, run blocking for whatever reason. When the field gets much smaller and things are condensed, the Packers aren't really able to run the ball well. I think that's the biggest problem there in the red zone. They can't get the running game going whatsoever. Where outside the red zone, they've been pretty effective, pretty efficient for the most part. And Jordan Love in the red zone, 11 touchdowns to 1 interception. So his interception problem hasn't really been in the red zone. I think the biggest problem is the inability to rush the ball. So that needs to be improved if the Packers want to be more successful. Now, number 2, we need to see less picks from Jordan Love. Currently, he is tied for the most interceptions with Geno Smith and Sam Darnold. He does have a couple less games played than those guys. When you look at some of the other numbers, it's not quite as bad as it looks on the surface. I was looking at PFF and their turnover-worthy play rate, so they'll count the turnover-worthy plays. So let's say you throw a ball, and let's say a defender drops the ball. It may not show up as an interception, but it does show up as a turnover-worthy play. So basically a play that is, or a ball that is turnover-worthy. Currently in the NFL, among quarterbacks who at least have 80 pass attempts, Jordan Love currently ranks 15th in the NFL in turnover-worthy play rate in the NFL. So that's not too bad. It's pretty much middle of the road. It could be better, but I think that he's been very unlucky with these interceptions. He has 10 turnover-worthy plays, and all of them have been intercepted. And so there are some other quarterbacks in the NFL where they have a ton of turnover-worthy plays, but barely interceptions. It's just sort of the luck of the draw. And so Love has not been great when it comes to ball placement, but he's sort of been middle of the road overall. But still, he has some of those bad interceptions that he can definitely clean up. And we saw last year to end the season what he has the ability to do, only throwing 1 interception in that 8 or 9 game stretch. And so hopefully we can sort of see him get back to that way of playing. Number 3, the Packers edge rushers need to improve. Currently 24th in the NFL in pressure rate at 32.2%, according to NFL Pro. And as I was looking up these stats, I was checking out PFF for overall pressures. Aiden Hutchinson, who the Lions lost about a month ago on October 13th, he currently, even though he hasn't played since October 13th, has 25 more pressures than any Packers player, according to PFF. So he has 45 total, got injured. Rashawn Gary has the most on the Packers at 20. So that just sort of shows you how bad the Packers pass rush has been overall. There's been some good moments here or there. I do think Rashawn Gary has played better football than he did early in the season, but still, it's probably one of the biggest weaknesses on this Packers defense is their inability to get pressure on the quarterback. Rashawn Gary is 95th in pass rush win percentage per PFF at 9.5%. JJ Enagbare is 128th at 7%, and Lucas Van Ness is 132nd at 6.7%. the Packers traded away Preston Smith, who had been slightly below Rashawn Gary. And so that's an area where the Packers, I mean, if they can start actually getting pressure on the quarterback consistently at a rate higher than 24th in the NFL, I think that we'll see a defense much improved, a defense that should force more turnovers, because when you do get a lot more pressure on the quarterback, you see the quarterback start to make more mistakes. So I don't know if we'll see that. It's already been, 9 games and we haven't seen them play well. But hopefully something can turn around. Not sure what, because it has not worked so far this season. And then the final thing I want to touch on, the fourth thing, they've made a lot of silly mistakes. So here you have from Matt Schneidman on November 4th. He says, self-inflicted stats to Bryson up here Monday. This was before this past Sunday's games. The Packers didn't play. So these numbers where they rank could be slightly different, but you'll get the point here. Packers have the 4th most drops, 20. 2nd most pre-snap penalties, 30. And 2nd worst field goal percentage, 75 in the NFL this season. And so some of these pass catchers have not been helping Jordan Love. One of the highest rates of drops in the NFL. We saw that the past game with Wicks dropping a pass in the end zone. It wasn't a perfect throw, but still it counts as a drop. The Packers have made a lot of mistakes that have really held them back. So many big plays brought back from holding, brought back from different kinds of penalties. So they need to play some cleaner football during this final stretch of the season. But that's pretty much it for this video. If you want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next time.